Councilman Schwartz, you're going to start off the prayer.
Dear God, we thank you for this day. And we ask that you enlighten us and give us wisdom as we perform our duties on this council. We ask this all through your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Remain standing for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. We welcome you to the 20th City Council meeting. Next order is roll call.
Colors,
Present.
Deacon,
Here.
Hensley,
Present.
Lester,
Here.
Neely,
Here.
Schwartz,
Here.
Spencer,
Present.
Spicer, Wiseman, Wright.
Present.
All right, we've got a quorum. So the next item, adoption of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Miscellaneous agenda items. Item 4, I don't believe we have any. Public hearings are none scheduled. Takes us to item 6, appointments by the mayor. And they are on your agenda.
Move that we accept the slate.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that passed unanimously. So as I indicated, there were 2 on there that needed 2/3. They were well above that. So we'll move those forward. Takes us to item 7, presentations. I believe Ms. Schwartz is here to talk to us about Salute to America. You want to come up to just introduce yourself and
You want me to come up here?
yes, there's a microphone in this whole room is a microphone. So.
Great. Okay. Yeah. So I'm Samantha Schwartz. I'm the event coordinator for Salute to America this year. This year is taking place on Tuesday, July 4th. It's going to be a 1-day event instead of the usual 3-day. One other change we have is that the footprint is going to be quite a bit smaller. It's basically just going to be the blocks that immediately surround the Capitol building. So that means we're kind of condensing everything down to that area. There won't be a Madison Street stage. We also won't have a carnival. But what we are focusing on is simplifying and, focusing on quality activities, food vendors, having a beer garden, kids zone, music. So we have got basically all of these things that happened over 3 days condensed down into one pretty large day. So I don't think anybody should be worried that it's going to be less days this year. And the fact that it falls on the 4th, it's the only day there is to attend. We have the possibility of having an extremely high traffic day. So as far as what we have planned, I was just going to kind of give you guys a little overview. We've got the Freedom Fun Run 5K, which is going to start and end at Norrin Access, run to the Capitol and back. That should be pretty fun. We'll have like a DJ and stuff too. Classic cars will be stationed around the north side of the Capitol near the river, which I think will be really pretty setting. We're going to have the parade, which is typically on the 3rd. It's going to be moved to the 4th at 11 a.m. And the theme this year is American movies, which I think will be really fun. Also included in the parade, we're going to kind of incorporate our Jason Park's community bike rides that we've been doing. So we're going to have the community bike ride start in the parade, do the parade route, and then they will go on their typical 10-mile journey before ending at the beer garden. We've also got a chalk art contest. We've got a magic show in the kids zone. The kids zone will be open from 1 to 9. On the main stage, we're going to have the opening ceremony, which I think is appropriate that it gets moved to that stage. It's the focal point. It's the opening ceremony of the festival. Right after that, we'll have the little Mr. and Miss Independence contest, which will be extra cute. And then for our entertainment later that day on that stage, on the Capitol main stage, we're going to have the K Brothers with the Bernie sisters, who are local favorites. And then we've got, as our finale band on that stage, the Sensational Barnes Brothers, who will be joining us from Memphis, Tennessee. They are sort of blues, gospel, funk, soul, family friendly, going to be amazing. I saw them in Kansas City in January and they blew me away, so had to have them. And then in the beer garden, we've got 3 bands back to back. Ernest James Zydeco, it's in the name, Zydeco. Lindley Creek, they're an amazing traditional bluegrass band out of Buffalo, Missouri. And then we've got a local band called Love Seats that will close out the beer garden. They're a rock band from Jefferson City. And closing ceremony happens on the north stage by the river at 9:15 p.m., followed by the countdown to 9:45, which will be our grand finale, July 4th fireworks display. And that will finish it out. We should be all done by 10 p.m. and we'll be loading everything out overnight. And that'll be really fun too. But yeah, so that's kind of Salute to America this year.
Well, great. I know a lot of work has gone into it. Any questions? Councilman Spencer.
The car show you said is going to be on the north side of the Capitol. Are they going to be allowed to stay all day, evening hours? Or?
No, so we, working with the Midmo Car Club, that's who will be coming with their cars. We're only going to have them from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the morning because it tends to get pretty hot and, you know, their cars are their babies, so to respect that. So we're going to let them load out at noon. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
It'll be fun.
Appreciate it.
All right. Item B is Parks and Recreation. Chair, Mr. Leichel, ready to make a presentation. I see you brought some colleagues with you. You may want to introduce them as well.
Definitely did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Certainly glad to be here to give our State of the Parks review. We've certainly got Mary Shan, Stu Murphy, and Chris Dern with us this evening of our commission. And we always enjoy their significant input to what we do with parks. So we're really excited again this year to make this presentation to you on behalf of our citizens and our commission. So without further ado, the first slide up there is obviously the picture of Deborah Cooper's Park in Adrian's Island. Certainly very proud of that and what we've got to present to our citizens and our guests in the city. A couple of things to note there is in 2022, last year, first year of the park, we had over 72, almost 73,000 visitors to the park, which was a really good number for us, we thought. And we hope to continue that, to continue to build on that this year. Right now, and our reporting is April to March each year. This year, thus far, is 18,000, almost 19,000 visitors, walking visitors to that park. So that's going to be a park that I think gets a lot of traffic, and we'll continue to invest in that park as we do all our parks to try to make them better and present more amenities to our guests and our citizens. And hopefully everybody enjoys it because it sure is a pretty park. The next slide, please, is our list of our Jefferson City Parks Commission members. Got such a great group of folks that offer a lot of different input and considerations as we develop not only a budget but our plan to improve and to build parks. And just a great eclectic group of folks come at it from a lot of different ways, and a lot of good discussions and a lot of good input from them in their areas where they live in and their friends and family and co-workers. So a lot of good stuff there. So thanks again to our commission, all the work they do representing our commission and our Parks and Rec. Next slide, please. Next slide, real briefly, is our board chart. One little minor error there. Assistant Director of Parks and Golf, J.J. Gates, he retired last year, a few months ago, and we just recently filled that position with Mr. Brian Braun, who is our golf course director, and we just had to update this slide here just recently. So anyway, he's replaced to fill JJ's spot, and big shoes to fill. JJ did a great job for our city and our staff for a long time in our department. So welcome to Brian. We got 6 vacancies, 1 customer service rep, and 5 mechanic slots that we're continually trying to fill. And but other than that, our org chart's we feel pretty good about where it is and the balance of staff and where they are, and got a pretty good group of folks that work really hard to execute the mission of the Parks Department and the Commission. So thanks to our staff and all that they do for us and the city. Next slide, please. Physical performance. We talked about several things in this category, but the first one there is cost recovery. We kind of changed. We brought in a company called Barry Dunn last year, last 8 months ago, yes, and had them kind of take a look into what we do relative to cost recovery. A lot of things go into cost recovery, and we changed the way we compute it, because the old way we did it, we didn't count maintenance or expenses relating, to maintenance and upkeep of the facilities. So we did that and a couple other little tweaks, but it kind of inverted the number that we reported. But this is much more accurate. We feel much more comfortable in the number going forward to be able to capture our cost recovery. And from last year to 2021 to 2022, it jumped up 2%. And I'm not sure if I don't want to spend a lot of time in the weeds on cost recovery, but your cost recovery through fees and expense or fees structure primarily, and you don't want your fees to get too high to where people aren't using your facilities, and obviously too low. You try to recover a certain amount of your expenses there. So we feel pretty good in the number that we're at, and we'll continue to tweak and challenge our staff in ways to cost recover and try to figure out ways to save and keep our expenses down at the same time. Personnel costs, just like any department, is the majority of your budget, and that'd be no different here in our department as well. So anyway, that's pretty much there. Certainly, if anyone's got questions near the end, we can certainly come back and talk about any of those, but that covers the fiscal performance part of it. Next slide, please. Economic impact. These numbers are, of course, estimated, but we work with Convention and Visitors Bureau on a economic program that we use for economic impact and how it computes it based upon the number of attendees and a lot of different factors, honestly. Last year, 2022 was 10% better than 2021 in relation to economic impact, the estimated numbers at least. And we feel good about those numbers because we use this, the Convention and Visitor Bureau uses this in their model as well. And I also serve on the Athletic Events Committee. We use this same tool for like state track. We just saw in the newspaper last week that we were able to get the bid for state track through 2030, I believe. So that's a big deal for this. So anyway, we use the same tool for that, which is a pretty neat tool that we purchased between the Commission and Visitors Bureau and Parks and Rec, and shared that cost 3 years ago or so, 3 or 4 maybe. But anyway, just some keynotes there, the amounts, ball fields, number of teams, the link. I don't know if many of you have been to the link here recently or in the summer. Obviously, the link's busy all the time, but it's really busy in the camp season with what's going on with different sporting events that are going on. There are leagues that are going on. The Lincoln's Leagues in Raidisburg has been going on this month in the evening, and then the Coach Drew's basketball camp will be taking off next week, I believe. So a lot of activities at the lake, a lot of teams, a lot of area folks coming from basically a 60, 70 mile radius to Jeff City to compete in the various leagues and such throughout there. So that's a bevy of activity there. And then the amphitheater, we had last year almost 21,000 people attend various events that were there, 23 events. This year we'll have close to the same number of events. We hope to have even more attend, and we're off to a really good start. Scouting Recruit was here a month or so ago. A little over 2,000 people attended that event. It was a beautiful night, beautiful event, great atmosphere, and a great show we put on. Some other folks that are scheduled, if you haven't seen the schedule, upcoming is Sawyer Brown in Muncie, Killer Queen, Three Dog Night, Tech Nine, and the Oak Ridge Boys. Each one of those acts have sold over, or approaching or sold over 1,000 tickets already. So if you haven't attended an event, you certainly would have plenty of choices there to attend one of those events and witness the amphitheater firsthand, because it's a quality event and a quality atmosphere. So anyway, lots of activities out there, and I think our numbers will be up this year just based on the early returns of the attendance. Next slide, please. Some highlights. Obviously, 2022, we ribbon cut and got Hawthorne Bank to sign on as a sponsor for the Hawthorne Bank box office there at the what we call the caretaker building. The Greenway Connections is a constant reinvestment. This particular was about renovation. This particular year, we put about $90,000 in renovations or maintenance and upkeep to the Greenway. We continue to look for spaces to connect and work with communities to try to do that. That's a constant priority of the staff. It'll do that. I'm going to go down to the lower left-hand corner of Grant Street. If you haven't been out to Riverside Park, you got to drive through there, because the cooperation with the city and what we did there to kind of spruce that intersection up at the base of the hill there before you go up the hill to the amphitheater is really a nice and a much more presentable entryway into the park and the amphitheater. So thanks to the city for working with us on getting that accomplished, because that's a really nice feature. Lower right hand corner there is the Botanical Garden schematic design. We approved that as a commission, and we committed to investing into the botanical gardens, not just short term, but continuously and long term, because that's going to be a really draw and a nice cherry on top, if you will, to our Riverside Amphitheater Park, because that's an amazing park, and that'll just add to it. It's going to be beautiful over the river once it's added. Some stuff off back there, off that point right there behind the caretaker's building. And then the last thing I'll address on this screen is the security enhancements. We continue to find ways to invest in our park security systems and work closely with the Jeff City Police Department. Thankful for their cooperation with us and their partnership, because we want our parks to be safe for everyone. We'll continue to invest in our security plan to make sure that it is exactly that, where everybody feels comfortable to come and visit our parks. And special thank you to Aaron Griffrath, who works in our department and works directly with the Jeff City Police Department to provide, and they have direct access to our systems to be able to look and see. And last year alone, they had, monthly, not last year, but monthly to date, we're averaging about 90,000 images per month of vehicles that are traveling through our parks where we're securing license plate shots. And I know that's been beneficial to the Jeff City Police Department in their efforts to try to maintain security in our parks. So, again, thanks to them for working with us. Next slide, please. Looking ahead, there's 6 items actually on here, and we put these in here for, obviously these are things that we targeted going into this year, and I'll be honest, you look on there,
3 of the 6 are already completed. Hickory Adams playground renovation, we just had that ribbon cutting 3 weeks ago. It's a beautiful park, all turf underneath the play elements there. Beautiful plateau on top of the hill there. There's a bench that sits behind this park that there's going to be a lot of folks up there watching the 4th of July celebration. It's going to have just a bird's eye view of the Capitol and the fireworks that are going off that evening. So that'll be a really cool place to be that evening. And then in the center there, the photo up there is the outdoor fitness court that's down from the link, closer to the football field there at Lincoln. Lots of activity already. It's right along the Greenway. So the theory is that they jump off the Greenway, do some circuits, and then head back on their way. So that's a really cool feature to our parks, and specifically to the link area there. The skate park was just recently remodeled and redone. A significant investment there to make sure we had obstacles that were safe and enjoyable for our various skaters on that facility, and some bikes, as you can see. Pickleball complex, we anticipate that to be done late summer, early fall. That's really a big thing that we were glad to be able to add to this completion list when it's time here, coming real soon, because we've got a pretty significant pickleball group here in Jefferson City. I know they're going to enjoy that park even more. So having their own complex will be nice. And then improvements to Deborah Cooper Park. A couple things of note there. If you've been over there, I've seen it particularly over the weekend, but we've had such a dry summer already. It's the grass is pretty spotchy and burnt, as most yards are, frankly. But we invested to put in a well there, and going to do some sprinkler system to help make sure that park is presentable to our guests, and try to make it an actual green area throughout the summer. And you think down the river it'd have plenty of water, but it's pretty dry down there. So we're excited about doing that as well. Those should be done by the summer here, by the end of the summer, in both instances. So a lot of good stuff there. So anyway, that's kind of the big projects going into this year that, frankly, most of them, 3 of them, we've already completed out of 6, which is always good to be doing that. We'll have the other 2 be done here pretty soon. Next slide, please. And the last slide is kind of a neat deal with Melissa Etheridge finishing out with the bulk of the concert. An artist at the amphitheater last year. We had she wrote a song for Jay's football several years ago, and due to the pandemic, wasn't able to get back to kind of commemorate that writing, and met with Coach Adkins that night, and prior to the concert, she was doing a heck of a show. And if you haven't seen that, you can go to YouTube and look that up and see the music video to that. Again, highlighted Jefferson City and all its success related to Jeff City high school football. So pretty cool deal. That pretty much concludes my prepared comments. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Whatever you like, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Well, we appreciate all your work. Any questions or comments? Councilman Spencer?
Just a couple questions. Appreciate you coming and presented the vision and what the accomplishments the Parks Department has done in the last year, and appreciate that. The caretaker house, that the renovations are complete on that.
Pretty much.
All right.
Yeah, they're pretty much done.
The
Minus
top
the
floor.
botanical gardens.
Okay, gotcha. And is Deborah Cooper Park going to be open for 4th of July? Or are they going to have availability for people to come and watch the fireworks there?
It's not, no, it'll be closed for that particular event, correct?
And I think it's important to know, go a step further in the answer, because your probably next question is why, right? So that's a walking park designed for what we consider normal traffic on daily use. Well, obviously, 4th of July wouldn't be a normal traffic example. And that's done in coordination with Jeff City Police Department and Fire Department to make sure that we don't overload out there.
Overpopulated area.
Yeah, and it's a bottleneck. you can only get so many people across the bridge at any time. If something happens down there, we're just now getting electricity to it in the next week or so. Bathrooms aren't quite done yet, so there's still some limitations and security concerns to be worried about there.
I knew the year before there was some opportunities for people to watch the fireworks then. Just didn't know if that was going to be allowed again this year or not. So,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Councilman Lester.
I just want to applaud Parks for developing your master plan and more importantly for delivering on that master plan that you've done so far. And I look forward to further developments. I really appreciate the renovations you've done at Parks, Community Park, and Hickory, and other parks. It's just fantastic. Just thank you.
We'll continue to invest in that, I promise you.
Councilman Wright.
Yeah, thank you for that report. Appreciate that. And can you expand a little bit on the plans going forward for the botanical garden and timeline?
So the timeline is like I said at the beginning, it's going to be a multi-year investment over a long period of time. So right now we've done the initial design work, and I know the Parks and Rec staff have that. And if you're ever out about it, possibly can get you a copy of it. It's a sprawling document, much like our master plan, except isolates strictly on the botanical gardens. It's going to be beautiful, and our relationship and our ability to continue to invest in the relationship with the master gardeners. This is going to be a cool thing to see whenever we're able to start really get planting stuff, natives, and developing that area. So we're going to start this late summer, early fall, and so if you plant anything now, it dies, right? Especially if it's as dry as it's been. So the plan is to do it this summer, early fall for the initial plan, and then it's just going to continue to grow each and every year. And they're really excited to be a part of that, and very thankful to have a place of such elevation to plant their things to where they can reinvest in that in a year or two.
So the master gardeners will be actually planting things there?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we Director Spalding has worked with that group since day one, and was very instrumental about getting their not only buy-in and support, but investment in it. They're super excited. That's going to be a really cool relationship for a long, long time.
Good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just one time, sorry.
Good.
Can you give an update, if it's available at all, as far as the ice potential for a new ice arena? Since you all had that study done, I know there was some good data and information.
Some really good data came of that. Now obviously, that was part of the MSP redevelopment, and that's obviously going through some regeneration, if you will. So, in relation to 2 sheets of ice at that location, I'm not sure where we go with that, but we have a plan in place. If that lever's pulled, we certainly got some data to go by. But just as important, at least short term, relative to the commission and to the Parks and Rec staff, was the information that was drawn from that report, that they're able to take many recommendations to help streamline our current sheet of ice to make it better. And we're investing in that facility as well, a new air conditioning unit and a couple different things there. We invested some going into that study, but sort of streamlining activities, maximizing skate time, or sheet time for our skaters, and some system stuff. So we feel real good about some of the stuff we came out of that. We'll just wait and see some direction where we go from there in relation to 2 sheets of ice. It's an expensive facility if one would ever be built. So certainly have to have a comprehensive plan on how to execute that if that was the direction.
Any other exploring of other areas potentially if the MSP is doesn't come to fruition?
Relation to 2 sheets of ice,
or one sheet, just a new area, a new location.
I think we would have to, as a community, as leadership, would have to take into account of cost versus ROI, location, and what we gain from it. So if that's ice, if it's some other activity, and you know what's funny, since I've served in this role as the president of the commission, I wouldn't say daily, but pretty doggone often, that we may have a plan for one thing and something happens that causes a zigzag. And we have the flexibility as far as a plan goes because we've got a good plan back to us as far as the study goes, so what we can do and what our limits and expectations are. As far as executing, if the sheets of ice is the direction, then we just got to figure out how to fund it. And that's the biggest thing. You know, that's a big ticket item. We certainly wouldn't have the capability within our budget to directly do it, but that's not saying we wouldn't be more willing to entertain and figure out a way to do it, whether it's through public funding or some other mechanism.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Neely, did you have a question?
Just more of a statement. I just want to thank you for being here and kind of echo Councilman Lester. So I see a number of commissioners in the audience, and so thank you all. I think we all know if there's two things that'll grow a town, it's schools and parks, right? And so your tremendous work is getting ready to grow our town. I think we're going to have to point to parks when we see growth. I think that is going to connect. So thanks.
Very good. And we certainly echo that for the investment in our infrastructure related parks. We believe that. So thank you for pointing that out. And we certainly agree with you. And we're excited. We've got a great group of folks. So thanks to the mayor for that.
Thanks for your work. We appreciate your presentation.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Right. Item 8, announcements. Administration Committee, Councilwoman Wiseman is not here, but I don't think she's planning a meeting in July. Is that correct? All right. Finance. Councilman Hensley, any update?
Good. Yep. Good evening. The Finance Committee's normal June meeting, which would have occurred this Thursday morning, has been canceled. Thank you.
All right. Public Safety. Councilman Spicer is also out. Any?
Yes, the next meeting will be June 29th at 7:30 in the PD classroom, or training room, excuse me.
All right. And Public Works.
Our next meeting will be July 13th at 7:30 here in the council chambers.
And Councilman Mealy, announcement?
Yeah, just really quick. There's a 5K opportunity coming up, Hope for Heroes. It's put on by the Food Bank for Central and Northeast Missouri. This is a benefit race for veterans who are food insecure. It's an annual event. This year's event is on July 1st. Opening ceremonies at 7:30 and the race starts at 7:45. I think registration is $35. You can sign up on the Food Bank for Central and Northeast Missouri's website. So look forward to maybe seeing some of my colleagues there, and it's a great time to run the mascot. So
where does that start at?
It starts at the help me out, but right by the Bicentennial Bridge is the memorial, the Veterans Memorial. Yeah, it starts right there. Yep, thanks.
All right. Any other announcements? All right. Presentations from the gallery. We have one name.
Glenn Costalis.
Mr. Constells, welcome.
Thank you.
You just introduce yourself.
I will.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Mayor. Glenn Costalis, live in 4th Ward. Thank you, Mayor and City Council and Department heads for being here tonight. I came across some interesting information, some numbers that I had requested from Sheila, and she did a remarkable job. She got them to me in under an hour. And while a group of us were working on the organizational and staffing optimization review, which you guys are going to vote on this evening on the contract. And I just want to pass this on because you guys are getting ready to get into the budget, and it's big time. From fiscal year 15 through fiscal year 19, full-time employees went from 411 to 436. Personnel cost as a percent of the overall budget was right around 53 53.4%. This year, fiscal year 22, full-time employees is 435. The percent of budget that's spent on personnel is 78.2%. A 50% increase from what it was there for like the FY15 through FY19. Just wanted, I saw that and I figured I needed to share that with you guys coming up on the budget. Anybody have any questions for me on that, or?
Could you repeat that percentage from 2015 to 2019?
From FY15 through FY19?
Yes.
The percentages? Yeah, it was around 53.3, 53.4. I mean, it went from 51.64, 53.62 was in there, and there was an outlier 16. All of a sudden, the budget jumped up like $9,000, and the percentage went down to 45. But all the others, the budgets were pretty right in that one range. But that 1 year, there's an outlier out there for whatever reason that drove that one down. And I didn't ask for 20 or 21 because with all the COVID going on and the money coming in, that was going to be really skewed also, I thought.
Councilman Schwartz had a question for you.
I'm guessing your concern is that's very high.
Well, it jumped up 50%.
Does this include fringe benefits?
It included all person.
Can I ask again?
Yes.
Which year you're pointing to with that high percentage and what it was?
Well, no, he was asking on the percentage. Does that include fringe benefits?
It would include all personnel costs, anything associated as a personnel cost in our budget. But can you repeat again the percentage and the year that you're speaking of?
Just a second, Sheila. I printed off an extra page.
I believe the information that I provided stopped at 2019.
Yes.
And I do not come up with a percentage that's that high.
And that I just got off with what was, I had to pull the numbers for all of that.
I can provide to council the information that I have, but I don't have a percentage that's as high as 76. And 22 minus 56.92%.
I got that from doing some numbers, but that's why I talked with you earlier, so they get the right info. You should be prepared.
Okay, so I think Ms. Perry can get you the number. Was that 2022?
Yeah, just way out there.
I'll send an email with all of the figures that I have, and I'm happy to copy Mr. Costales on it. I have his contact information as well.
Okay. Appreciate you
I just got my
joining with us.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you very much.
All right. I think that's the only person we had signed up, so we'll go to item 10, consent agenda.
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks very much. Item 11, bills pending 2023-018.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Cole County setting procedures for the transload facility, Wildwood Drive Extension, and Monroe Street joint city and county capital improvement projects.
And just to remind everybody, there is a check mark, Mr. Morash.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're asking the rules be suspended just because of the not wanting to have the delay of the month. But also here that may be of help is Eric Landwehr with the county. As soon as he came in and the developer has purchased some ground near the Wildwood extension, so they're here as well if anybody wanted to hear from them. But basically this is an agreement, city-county agreement, that outlines some of our joint capital improvement monies. As we get going through these, we put these agreements together so it's clear to everybody, like in their budget, for example, if we're planning on doing these in the spring, that way everybody can kind of prepare. Also, in this case, it's 3 projects, as I think the clerk already indicated, but the transload facility is already underway, and the city in the past has verbally at least committed to $400,000 towards that project. and sharing with the county. They have a grant for some of that project as well, and they are the lead on that. So that project is currently under construction. The next thing, the county's going to also be the lead on Wildwood. It does parts in the city, parts in the county, out of the city and the county, and we're each committing to at least $1.5 million on that, and that extension goes out to Rock Ridge from where it intersects Edgewood presently. So that would be the Wildwood extension, and anticipating that we'd have the plans redone, some things the county's working on, and working with our developer a little bit for some fill, etc. But we anticipate that going sometime in the spring as well. And then the city would be the lead on the third project, which is Monroe Street, which would go basically from the highway over to Duncan Street, including the intersection. And that's at $400,000 from the city, $400,000 from the county. And again, the Wildwood and the Monroe are just estimates at this point, but it gives us some planning numbers to work towards. And we anticipate having that ready by the spring as well. So 2 pretty good sized projects going in the spring. And be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
One other thing that typically once we bid these, we would then, if say we bid Monroe, we typically go to the county and reaffirm, hey, here's the final number. Same from the county, they come back with Wildwood, assuming our budgeting was good, or if it's indifferent, we may have to adjust the number a little bit, but I think we'll be in the pretty good ballpark.
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry. Councilman Ellers.
At one of the public works meetings, there was talk about expanding it 2 lanes up to Charles E. Still. Are we just going to concentrate on the first phase of that, which would go up to Monroe Street, and then maybe bring back the idea or the thought of redoing that, or is that just kind of gone off from?
You're talking about the Monroe Street project?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's in 2 phases, and I might turn it to the chair of the committee, but I think it's a 2-phase project. What they're suggesting is phase 1.
That's correct. From the highway to Duncan Street is phase 1, and
The new lights and all that.
and phase 2 would address. And we at our last public works meeting, we kind of have indicated that we would like to see some kind of recommendation, a final recommendation, I guess, to be more accurate, from staff, so that we can send a signal to that neighborhood that this is the direction that we're contemplating about going, so that they can kind of not be in limbo. So,
Thank you.
I know, Mr. Leinroy, you spent a lot of time on all 3 projects. Any comments that you wanted to make?
I definitely don't have anything prepared, but happy to be here and give you an update. So the transload facility is under construction. We're waiting final word from the governor on for approval of the state budget, which has $2 million towards that project. If that'll come through like we expected, it'll actually allow us to completely build the siding out for full capacity of that facility. So that moves along good. Great project, great benefit to the economy, local economy. So we're excited about that. Wildwood is another great project. It's been hanging around for a while, quite a while, and we're excited to have it finally, get to the point where we can build it. Had been working with the city to come up with the final idea or design on that, scale that back from a 3-lane curb and gutter to a 2-lane with shoulders. Fits the area a little bit better. The county commission will approve the same agreement that you're about to vote on tonight, and then also approve, this will be next week at their meeting, also approve the final new contract to finish out the design work and have that under construction, hopefully, or have it bid out for construction early 2024. So that's kind of how that's all going to play out. But good opportunity to work together to get some good projects moving along, and the Monroe Street is good too. I know the county commission supports that, and if the choice is to move that up towards the hospital and get that done, they support that as well. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, I appreciate the partnership. I know we've laid 3 fairly good-sized projects with you and Mr. Morash and his team, and I think you guys have done a great job of pulling them all and kind of working with us. So thank you very much. I think they're exciting projects. Councilman Wright.
Yeah, on Rock Ridge Road specifically, I had heard there's going to be an overlay done this summer. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, we're overlaying that road this summer. Actually, another partnership with the city because part of that road is actually in the city limits. So the whole piece is going to be overlaid.
All of Rock Ridge Road.
Yes.
One and the other will be overlaid. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
And I know the developers here. Did you have any comments on the Wildwood project? Or you don't have to if you're not.
Sure, I'd be happy to provide with
You just introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is John Farrer. We own a home here in Jeff City off Route CC. I've purchased 54 acres of Wildwood Extension with the plan to develop townhomes in that area. And at this point in time, have 2 phases planned, looking to initially develop 48 units with phase 1 and up to 54 units with phase 2. Looking at 1,600 to 1,800 square feet for each townhome and 2 townhomes per unit. And really excited the opportunity to bring additional housing to Jeff. And I think it's really needed and being really well accepted. I think it's a great location to move. So looking forward to working with the town. Hopefully getting this done. Any questions?
Councilman Spencer.
You know, we've had some preliminary meetings and working with the county and city staff, and I just really appreciate anyone that is willing to make significant investment in a development in our community. It really blows my mind that you are willing to take an enormous risk like that, and putting a lot of faith in our community, and I think we'll reap the reward from that, and I hope you will too as an investor. And again, thank you so much for doing that.
And really, it's going to be a challenging project with the topology in that area, but I'm really excited to get moving on it.
That preliminary draft looks like about 52 townhomes, and so since March, I believe we've got over. Well, that puts us to about 155 residential homes in the pipeline. So you know, we're taking a small bite out of the big elephant in the room as best we can, but it's every little bit helps. And again, thank you so much for your willingness to serve.
Appreciate it. Or any other questions?
Yeah, are these to rent own both?
Initially, looking to probably own. There may be a possibility of some rentals. It's a little early on to nail that down, but initially, they'll be for purchase.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Any other questions?
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Spencer. Did you have a request?
Yes, I'd like to suspend the rules on that tonight.
Any opposition? All right, you've got Bill 2023-018 in front of you.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Cole County setting procedures for the transload facility, Wildwood Drive extension, and Rose Street joint city and county capital improvement projects.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Allers,
Yes.
Deacon,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Mealy,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Wiseman, Wright.
Aye.
Bill passes.
Great, thank you very much. Item B 2023-019.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Jefferson Asphalt Company in the amount of $1,631,199 for the 2023 mill and overlay project.
And to remind you, there's also a check mark in front of this one, Mr. Moraes.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, we're asking for a suspension of the rules just so we can proceed with this contract in a timely manner. As the clerk indicated, a contract for overlay with Jefferson Asphalt. They've long done our overlay contract located here locally. We've, as you might be aware by now, we've greatly increased the amount of overlay budget this year by the infusion of some gleaning funds out of our sales tax. And so all combined, we've got to be over $2 million of overlay, which we were around $1 million just probably a year ago. So that has greatly increased our mileage that we need to be at. You know, we're looking to hopefully get that mileage up to keep up with our road projects. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Spencer.
Again, I ask for to suspend the rules so that we can vote on this tonight.
No opposition?
2023-19, an ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Jefferson Asphalt Company in the amount of $1,631,199 for the 2023 mill and overlay project.
All right, seeing no other comments, I would just make one, I think, to add to all the work that you're doing. I think MoDOT is doing an amazing job in our city. The work they've done on 179 and 50. So I think all these projects fit together, plus what the county's doing that's tagging into city property. So hopefully our residents see that you're taking this seriously. I appreciate it. Roll call.
Deacon,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Mealy,
Aye.
Schwartz, Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Wiseman, Wright,
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Bill passes.
All right, great. 2023-020.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with United Mechanical Services, air conditioning and refrigeration maintenance services.
Mr. Moraes.
Thank you. And as the clerk indicated, just we're in a bid to United Mechanical for our HVAC services at the city. These are just on-call services for our various buildings. Sheila, our finance director, did indicate that the current contract is expired, although we're continuing until this one is filled. So we have to answer any questions. And it's for all departments to use: fire, police, everybody.
Councilman Allers.
And you said at the pre-meeting that there's no need to maybe suspend the rules and get this. Is that?
We've been operating without a contract for several months, so it's not going to hurt to continue on until we get this approved. I don't consider it an emergency at this point.
Councilman Spencer.
Just a follow-up question. This is a new company providing services to the city that we've never done business with before, correct? I believe the other contractor that was providing the services had a pretty much a long-term history with the city.
I don't know that we've never done business with them before, but they are not the company that held the previous contract.
Okay. So, is there a means for us to measure performance if there's concerns or they're not providing?
Yeah, I would point out that we can cancel these contracts if we find out that there's a performance issue. And I know the police utilize this service a lot, and so I'm sure we'll hear very quickly if there's a performance issue.
Well, I know we have quite a
And
few.
we do too here in City Hall.
Yeah, we got quite a few units that are AHS, so
There's a lot of
I just want to make sure that
HVAC around.
exactly. I just want to make sure our staff's taken care of. It's sometimes hard to work in heated environments. It's already a heated environment as it is. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Takes us to item 2023-21.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $240,063 agreement with MNLC Incorporated for the St. Mary's Boulevard Sanitary Sewer Replacement Phase 1 project.
All right, Mr. Moraes,
Thank
another
you.
check mark.
Yes, sir. Another check mark. Again, not to want to delay the contract and get moving on this, but this contract is for some sanitary sewer work off St. Mary's Boulevard. We have some old sewer main in that area that is compromised by placement of a fill in years past, but we need to get working on that. This would be funded through the wastewater fund, $240,000, and the bill below that we're getting ready to approve would actually fund this project, the $1.5 million supplemental out of our fund balance in wastewater. So be happy to answer any questions. The company's out of Eugene, Missouri. We got a good bid from them, and again, happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Wright, do you have a question?
Quick question, just what block or blocks of St. Mary Boulevard would be closest to this area?
I don't know what block, but you know where maybe taxi cab area was in the past, kind of back behind there. There was a bunch of fill placed in there. That's why we're very protective of sewer mains and fill when we have projects going on. So we review that very closely. That was done many, many years ago, I understand, but we have discovered some issues there.
So like between the taxi cab and Highway 50?
Yeah, it's in those backyards more.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we have of course drawings on it. I could sit down with you if you'd like to see them particularly.
Just a general area.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Councilman Spencer.
Yes, I just asked that we suspend the rules tonight to vote on this.
No opposition. 2023-021.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $240,063 agreement with MLC for the St. Mary's Boulevard Sanitary Sewer Replacement Phase 1 project.
Seeing no questions, roll call please.
Hensley?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Mealy?
Aye.
Schwartz? Spencer?
Aye.
Spicer? Wiseman? Wright?
Aye.
Allers?
Aye.
Deacon?
Aye.
Bill passes.
Great. On to item E, 2023-022.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, Jefferson City, Missouri, approving a professional services contract with Matrix Consulting Group.
And I think there's going to be a recommendation soon, but Chief Schofield, do you have comments on this?
Yes, thank you. And I know that the RFP Organizational Review Committee has met multiple times. My understanding is that after evaluation of those RFP results, they're now ready to make a recommendation to council on which vendor to go with for the study. And I believe we also have the chairperson of that committee here with us tonight, should the council want to ask further questions.
Councilman Mealy.
Thanks. I have questions. I don't for the chair, whomever.
Ms. Quick, do you want to take some questions?
Sure.
And if you could just introduce yourself. Appreciate you joining with us tonight.
My pleasure. Question away.
Do you want to just introduce yourself, please?
Penny Quigg, Ward 3. I'm the default chairman. Our original chairman was Gary Wilbers, but he had to step away, so I was the vice chair, so I took over for him.
Okay.
Councilman Mealy.
Well, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
What Moss Adams came on the bids? They came in approximately $56,000 less than the selection that your committee made, and it looks like they scored fairly low in references. Do you have any information to elaborate on why they scored so low in that regard?
About why we didn't take the lowest.
Why they scored so low on references? Like, because what we did in our packet isn't. It's just the option you selected. So I don't know. I can see Matrix Consulting's references, but in the packet I don't have the information of what their references looked like.
Well, maybe I'll just help you to tell you a little bit about what process we used. We actually had, I think, 7 bidders. So we it ended up being 5 of us that reviewed the bids, and we went through individually, came back and met as a group and discussed, of course, one of the big parts of the evaluation was the price, but then we also looked at their experience and how we felt they related and understood what we were looking for. So we rated all of them and then distilled it down to, I believe we distilled it down to 3 or 4, went through again, and then we came down to 2 providers Raftelius and Matrix, and then we interviewed them via Zoom call, and that's how we got to Matrix.
Are this may be kind of a newbie question. Are these point value systems used in other areas of city government? Or I just don't know what kind of scale I'm looking at.
Well, that's typically how you evaluate a bid. Is before the bid is evaluated, they assign what values will, what cost, what percentage of the component that will be, what experience, those are preset about how much you can give each item. So there's a range there. So obviously the price was the biggest, but then we looked at their experience and their in fact, Mr. Costales even called some of their references to see,
Mr. Costales is on the committee with you.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure who Mr. Costales is. Is that somebody on the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the gentleman that was here earlier.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And he's a former city council member. So.
Okay. Do you have, personally, any comments to make on Moss Adams that had the lowest bid? Do you recall anything that was, we should know about, what was?
I don't have anything in front of me. Honestly, I've been at another meeting today. I think that when we made the first round of eliminating them, they were in the first round. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Staff?
I think
And then when we made the second round, they fell out.
the big discrepancy is that they didn't equate to the same amount of hours roughly as the other people. So basically, they were assuming it was going to take half the time, comparatively speaking, versus the other vendors. That's why the big difference was.
And the time it would take them to complete the job.
That's one of the things we did is we looked at the hours and the cost, and it seemed like Moss Adams didn't tie out. It looked like there were going to be a lot fewer hours, as I recall.
Why is that a negative thing?
Why is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess they thought they could do it for fewer hours.
Yeah, but I get as far as rating, why would they get less of a rating for being able to complete the job in fewer hours?
Because that was going to make their rate per hour exponentially larger.
But it still has a total cost of $56,000 less than the proposed contractor, right?
But their hours were fewer.
Right.
Okay. So that was going to make the cost per hour be a lot larger.
Okay. Thanks for entertaining my questions.
Sorry, I don't have this in front of me, but I would like to say that this is a process that we started last September.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the process, there were about 14 or 15 of us. Attrition kind of happened over as time went on. But I do think that we got a lot of great input about what it was that we wanted out of this process. And I feel like that we had a good cross-section of our community. We talked a lot about a lot of different subjects, cultural changes, the fact that we're a capital city, the fact there's generational changes. I mean, I think we got a lot of good information before we ever attempted to write this RFP. And one thing I have to say that Mrs. Corrigan, the city purchasing agent, her help was invaluable in helping get us to the finish line. She was very knowledgeable and very tenacious about responding to any needs that we had for more information. So she did an excellent job.
And she offered a lot of guidance in the scoring matrix components of things too as well.
Yes.
So I feel very confident with the recommendation, not only based on the credentials that the RFP selection committee did, and that's you all, but also having that added component of staff with Leanne participating in that, and that's what she deals with day in and day out.
Right.
Well, and I'm slightly less confident because nobody can explain. Or I haven't heard an explanation of why less hours would be a negative mark on a scoring.
Well, I think you have to take into account of the other vendors, and everyone was reasonably close to what they bid on hours. So I think there was some concern that those hours that they submitted wasn't realistic.
It looks like to me that on the matrix, the biggest difference was on ratings of experience and qualifications. So I guess that's where my question would be: why they fell down so much on experience and qualifications. I mean, that's on the matrix. That's you're 15 points lower that make the one that was chosen. So that's
You'd say Moss Adams was 15 and Matrix was 30.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the big, looks like the biggest difference.
Right.
Well, I think it came down to just getting a consensus about overall who we felt would do the best job. I mean, there were people that were rating them differently, but we had to come to consensus, and I think Matrix was, when we talked to them on the Zoom call, I felt like that what they provided to us that day gave us the greatest feeling of confidence that they would be successful in doing the job that we needed. Also, we looked at, we tried to see if the experience they had was with communities that were comparable to ours, and that led into the decision also.
I mean, I guess from my perspective, the lowest bid of Moss Adams' score isn't too far off from the highest bid, and I certainly don't want to undermine and appreciate the work that you and your committee did. So thank you for that. To be comfortable with this, I would just need more information. I would like to see a score sheet of each. I only have one in this packet, the one we're voting on, and I would like to see. I would just like to see, to Councilman Lester's point, I would like to see why the score of 15 on experience and qualifications, and then why the low score on references.
Councilman Schwartz.
When you go through these evaluations and there's a significant outlier, doesn't that draw a red flag to you? Isn't that part of the evaluation process on purchasing anything? And so what your testimony is that Moss Adams was a significant outlier with regards to the amount of time they were willing to.
As I recall, yes.
And so while they might do it in half the time, they were going to be twice as expensive on a per hour basis.
Exactly.
And then if they say they didn't quite get their job done and they wanted to spend a little more time, they were stuck at that contractual rate.
Well, and we talked about that, the issue of change orders may come into play. So
when you're dealing with 6 major companies and you got one that is kind of a head scratcher, doesn't that raise a red flag in your opinion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Spencer.
Yeah, and Councilman Miller, I think if you look at the point differentials, it is pretty significant from Matrix for total points. That was given to them at 88 points versus Moss Adams at 76. So that is pretty widespread when it comes to this kind of evaluation. So, but I appreciate your question and asking questions on it.
One is follow up, and that's this. This might be a question for staff. What is, once we spend $145,000 in tax money, where are we at what's the process for this report after it's received?
Take that, Chief.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. So I think the intent would be once the contract is awarded to assist this vendor in their research, and it's pretty defined, I think, in their proposal about what that would look like. And my understanding, trying to get up to speed on it, is that not only are they going to do their analysis and present that information to us, but they also have implementation strategies identified in that contract as well. And so I would imagine at some point we would see those implementation strategies come back through a process for elected officials to weigh in on. But again, I think that's to be determined somewhat in the future, and ultimately it would come back to council for any action.
And in all of their proposals, they offered experience in how they'd help cities save money. Very concrete. They were very specific about what cities they had saved what money and by what means. And I think also they probably would be a reference for someone we could go to in the implementation phase of any changes that we might decide to do.
And I would just add, I think this is a unique process that we're getting into. It's going to take a partnership between senior level staff, certainly the city administrator and council. And council will have the final say, but I mean, we're going to need input from staff as to some of those recommendations. It's not as cut and dried as some of the projects we'll get into. So we're going to have to work our way through it. But I think they outlined in the document, and as Ms. Quigg indicated, how they'll work with the city to go through that review process and implementation if council adopts some of the recommendations. Councilman Allen?
I just wanted to just tell Councilman Bealey that back when I was in construction, we see how we're kind of bunched up with a lot of the different consulting firms, and you have one that's relatively a lot lower. And so back in reviewing bids in construction, you always thought, okay, they forgot something in the bid, or they're probably going to bid it, and you're going to end up starting getting change order, which brings the price either back up or even more than what it costs. So when I first looked at it, I thought that was the first thing that popped in my head from the days of that is, do we forget something, or is it, were they going to just come in here just in the very few hours and think, here's what it was? Was it as comprehensive as we needed it to be? And so that was my thinking along the line. It may have been concur with what you all said, that maybe they're not as comprehensive as what the other ones that are bunched up pretty close together are, and they were going to, spend more time and resources at it.
The two final vendors that we were considering, I think that one of the things that stood out about them was they were both very specific about getting staff and the public's buy-in. Because if your staff is not with you on this, it's not going to work. And they were very specific about what they had planned for how to get that done, which, having participated in things like this before, I know that if you don't have your stakeholders involved, it's not going to fly. So that was important to us too.
Well, thank you for your group and what you've done, and for Councilman Spencer setting this all up and getting it going.
The ultimate goal was to provide efficient and effective government for the taxpayer. And I'll echo my comments earlier. I really appreciate your all's work, and
I will say we did put a lot. I mean, I really feel like we did our due diligence. We met almost every week there in the fall, every Friday. So I do feel like we did exercise due diligence in this project.
Just to close a couple things, I don't see where Moss Adams has too terrible of ratings. When you do a cursory search that anybody can do. And then second, this is my last comment. You know, I think when we talk about due diligence for the taxpayer, in my mind, that starts with something that's for this type of job, not $145,000. So I can't be behind it without seeing those other that other information from those other contractors. So thanks.
Councilman Schwartz.
Unless I'm looking at this wrong, Moss Adams received 30 out of 30 on pricing. They were the lowest. They got 30 out of 30. So I don't understand what the line of question even is here, to be honest with you, once. And I with respect to the time you put into this, I appreciate it. I know you all. I don't understand the line of question here. I'm just going to
And quite frankly, all of us that were on that committee, I think we were totally unfamiliar with any of the vendors. So everybody received an equal opportunity to impress us.
Any other questions or comments? Councilman Spencer.
I request that we vote on this tonight so that the vendors can start their work.
Awesome. All right. So no opposition. Item 2023-022.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri approving a professional services contract with Matrix Consulting Group.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Roll call vote.
Lester,
Aye.
Neely,
No.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Wiseman, Wright,
Aye.
Hollers,
Aye.
Deacon,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
7 ayes, bill passes.
All right. Thank you very much, and thanks for the questions. That's how we get through these issues. So, thank you. Next item, 2023-023.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Jefferson Company CPAs LLC for audit services.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This would authorize a contract for the annual audit services. Staff is recommending that those services be awarded to Jefferson Company. During this bid process, we received two firms that responded. While Jefferson Company is not the lowest bid, that is still staff's recommendation due to the fact that historically we know how many hours the audit takes and how many staff hours from the auditors are required for all of the necessary federal audit requirements. We don't believe that the number of hours that were included in the second firm's response were reasonable. So that's one of the largest reasons for us recommending Jefferson Company. This would allow us to award the contract to Jefferson Company, and once the city administrator is appointed with someone permanently, it would allow us to decide at that point if we were going to do the audit with the GFOA submission or without. If you recall, this year we filed without, which still met all of our federal audit requirements, but there is a significant increase in both respondents on this RFP, and so staff would recommend at this point we still do the non-GFOA submission. Again, still satisfies all federal requirements, but that would ultimately be able to be decided by the future city administrator. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? All right. Item G, 2023-024.
An ordinance authorizing first amendments to the existing performance agreements between the City of Jefferson, Missouri and Modern Litho Print Company originally entered into in connection with the city's issuance taxable industrial development bonds Modern Litho Print Company Project Series 2016, and Taxable Industrial Development Bond Series 2019.
Mr. Mullen.
Thank you. To give a little background, so JC Rep, which is Mr. Holschneider's group, as part of their economic development services provided to the city, they will do tracking of performance agreements for redevelopment agreements and development agreements. In that process, they took notice of the modern litho projects, and they were having a hard time figuring out what to measure success against. And so took a dive into that, to the agreements, and found out that in between these two development agreements, the jobs components weren't really tied to each other. And so essentially you had one employer with two different redevelopment agreements with kind of two separate ways to measure jobs. And so JC Rep was kind of really unable to figure out the jobs component and whether and how much the performance measures in these performance agreements related to the Chapter 100 redevelopment deals were being complied with. And so we took this to Bond Counsel, Gilmore and Bell, and they've prepared these first amended performance agreements to both the 2016 and the 2019 performance agreements on the Chapter 100 investments for modern litho. And so essentially what these two agreements do is they kind of coalesce and streamline the process and reestablish the required jobs for modern litho to fulfill their performance requirements under these agreements. And so those job requirement total for the facility is 160 full-time equivalent jobs. And so that gives a very definite affirmative baseline for the jobs requirements, that way when JC Rep is doing the tracking of the performance agreements, they know exactly what that number is and can measure easily whether or not those measures are being complied with or not. And so that's essentially the operation of the agreement, sets those job numbers for both projects at 160 and kind of sets forward the rest of the performance. The full investment for both of these, for both the 2016 and the 2019 projects, has already been made. So they have made the investment, and now they're just running their facilities. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Good job. Thanks. All right. It takes us to bill spending, item 12. First item, 2023-014.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Donaldson Construction Company in the amount of $314,244.17 for the 2023 microservicing project.
Back to you, Mr. Price.
Thank you. And this will be our final piece of our street resurfacing contract project. So there's 3 total. This is the last approval of one, but again, pressure based. So this is a micro seal project that we typically try to use on lower volume roads like residential, etc. It helps us stretch our dollars a little bit and without doing a full overlay. And then it helps us seal up those small cracks that might have formed in the pavement, but otherwise in good shape, or we have repaired into good shape. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. And our total project with street resurfacing would be about $2 million for this contract this year.
Questions? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Neely,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer, Wiseman, Wright,
Aye.
Hollers,
Aye.
Deacon,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Bill passes.
All right, thank you. Before we move on, I neglected to say thank you, Ms. Quigg, for being here, for fielding questions. Appreciate all your work on it. Work group. Item 2023-015.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending the 2022-2023 budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by appropriating additional funds within the wastewater enterprise fund.
Mr. Murray.
Thank you. As clerk indicated, supplemental out of our wastewater fund balance of $1.5 million This would help us get a jump on some projects that we have in the hopper to get going prior to us getting all our bonding work together. You might recall last meeting, the council approved a contract with a consultant to help us get moving on that. Also, our audit is getting done, so that'll allow us to progress with that work. But this will get us, like I mentioned, the previous project over off St. Mary's Boulevard, get it going yet this summer, and help us with other things that may arise.
Questions? All right, roll call vote, please.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer. Wiseman. Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Bill passes.
Thank you. Item 2023-016.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Aplex in the amount of $536,945.00 for the Air Street Southwest Phase 2 and sanitary sewer project.
For the trifecta, Mr. Moran.
Thank you. We're going to have a lot of busy inspectors this summer. That's a good thing. $536,000 contract with Aplex, a consultant that we've done much work with in the past. This is over on Air Streets, that Bel Air School area. We've already done a phase of this several years ago, working on stormwater. There's a lot of issues in that older neighborhood with stormwater, as with many older neighborhoods, but this would route some stormwater in a better location. We'll be repairing some streets in this contract and wastewater component. I think the wastewater component is over $125,000 of this contract. And so when we do this, we try to kind of hit all those issues and get some economy of scale and repair several things while we're there. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer. Wiseman. Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Bill passes.
Thank you very much. Item 2023-017.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, terminating a license agreement with Bird Rides Incorporated for a shared active transportation operation.
Mr. Moulton.
Thank you. So this ordinance would authorize the termination of the license agreement with Bird Rides Incorporated, which allows Bird to operate their scooter rental business along city rights of way. The termination is pursuant to which contained in the license agreement.
Comments or questions? Councilman Spencer.
I'd like to place this on the informal calendar.
All right. So that'll go on informal.
Do you have a follow-up question for staff, though?
Okay.
Is there a way we can get a written response from Bird on their intentions, possibly with the suggestions that some of us communicated with them when they were on a meeting?
I believe Ms. Fledman with Bird is on the line with us, so I would suggest maybe just directing the question to her.
Right.
Welcome. I think Councilman Spencer has a question for you.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're good, I believe. Thank you. I would just like to ask if there's any way that you could provide us with a written response of your plan of intent to address these issues that were brought up to you and your company at our last council meeting. And could,
Yes.
could iron out some reassurances, if you will, please.
Yes, absolutely. In addition to the data report that I believe made it to all of you on council, happy to add in some of maybe some of the specific actions that we intend to take. Obviously, I think the goal is as well to work directly with the city. So whatever we would suggest, then work with the city to fine tune those tools that we plan to implement. A lot of these, such as geofences, maybe there's some variation of the ID verification that we can put in place and outline some of that in writing so that you can ensure you have it, and we're kind of bound to that by written agreement. Absolutely.
Thank you. You answered my questions.
Timeline of the response.
There was a request for a timeline for the
To provide
response.
the written by end of week. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I'm seeing nodding heads, so it sounds like that's reasonable.
So
Councilman Lester, do you have another question?
my question is, you mentioned geofencing. What geofencing are you considering?
Yeah, so that would be kind of a perfect case study of what we would do in working with Ryan or any other members of the city staff to implement. Really any places that are major concerns. So essentially what we would intend to do is look at areas such as High Street. Maybe it's a slow zone that we put over it. I know we've already put geofencing over City Hall when there was some issues with parking and vehicles coming across that. So we can do no ride zones, we can do slow zones. I believe this was part of, what I mentioned last time, but it's a really customized approach. It's not a one size fits all. So we can work really area by area, trial and error different things to see really what works. It's really as simple on our end as configuring it on the technology side on the back end. So once we establish what those areas would be, they can go into an effect as soon as a day or two.
Okay, I just wanted to comment that this issue of geofencing came up at the Downtown Business Association, and they wanted. My understanding from the conversation was they wanted to go on record that they did not want any geofencing on High Street or downtown. I just wanted to make that statement.
I apologize. You said they do or they do not?
Do not.
Yeah, I believe a council member last time mentioned, kind of a great point of micromobility. It does generally bring a lot of revenue, local revenue to these small businesses. That said, I understand some of these small businesses don't want scooters, and so, but some do, right? So they provide a value to some and maybe not to others. Again, that's where we would look to the city for their directive, and happy to speak with the downtown district as well. I really do want to be a resource for any stakeholder that is interested in working closely with Bird, so that we can really be a value and help just further the economy and the tourism and the transportation network of Jefferson City. And a lot of that comes with me being a live resource, and happy to put that in my written response as well as that promise to do so moving forward.
Councilman Spencer had his hand up, and then Councilman.
It's for Councilman Lester, and I believe Councilman Mealy. I think you both attended the Downtown Association meeting last week. So was that a collective response? I mean, is that going to be a written statement that they're going to present to council, or was my understanding was it was one business owner that was really advocating for those to be?
It was mainly, you're correct, it was mainly one, but I heard no objection to that what was being said. It actually there was more than one. Albine Cookie also was saying they like the scooters, but I don't.
Yeah.
Councilman Meade may have more
well,
input on that.
Right. The question was, I think, directed at both of us. I mean, I think I remember more than two, but you might have to come and revisit the topic and see just how many folks are.
I heard nobody saying they wanted geofencing.
Yeah. Off on a little side point. I mean, downtown businesses, I think for the most part, like these scooters. I think downtown's the perfect environment to drive them. The speed limit's slow. There's been no accidents down there. I just think a vibrant downtown has alternate modes of transportation. That's a healthy community. So.
Councilman Schwartz.
Well, I guess I'm speaking to both councilmen as well. So what you're purporting is not the official record of the downtown business?
They did not take a vote, no.
So it is not the position?
No, but they had a vigorous discussion.
Because I've had several downtown business people tell me they hate them. And I mean, I'm going to strongly disagree with Councilman Mealy in that I think High Street is probably the worst place for them. There's no bike lanes. There's parking on both sides of the road. the only place to ride them is either on the sidewalk where you have pedestrians or down the middle of the road. And I don't think either place is the right place for a scooter.
You're talking about High Street though, right? Without bike lanes. The other parts of downtown do have bike lanes.
Yeah, Capitol does.
Yeah.
But the major reason I initially brought this up was High Street, because I think that's where something bad's going to happen sooner or later. I respect Bert for putting in the ID check. I think we saw with the email we all received that with the two percentages, that ridership was down almost 70% for people that had to show an ID. And so I think that's a good thing. And I said from the get-go, I'm not doing this because I think scooters are bad. I just know what I've seen downtown, and I think High Street is just not a very good place for this mode of transportation.
I'm not totally opposed to, a geofence on High Street if there's no bike lane and businesses support that decision.
I am sure next downtown association they will have a discussion, and apparently you'd like them to vote. I'm sure they will vote, and the persons that from downtown that have problems, they should come to the meeting, I would say.
I think it's just highly frustrating that we saw with the parking, they came here and spoke in opposition to what we did, which is their right. I respect that. But it seems like they've had that opportunity to do it on this particular bill that's been now on our agenda for over a month, and they've neglected to do that. And it's, as the person that came up with the idea to the bill handler, it's frustrating that nobody's reached out to me and said, hey, we're with the Downtown Business Association. We don't like your idea, so let's get together to try to negotiate a better way forward.
Okay, I would just point out that whoever you spoke with also did not appear before us to speak. But
I'm talking about the association. I'm not talking about individual business owners. I'm talking about the association.
Well,
Just a minute. We're not going to get into a discussion here. If you want to speak, please ask to be recognized. We'll go in orderly fashion, but we're not going to get into a three-way conversation. Councilman Schwartz has the floor.
What was purported was that the Downtown Business Association was on the record in your meeting as being opposed to geofencing. Councilman Spencer asked you a question, and then you said it was one person, maybe two. So I want the record to show what the position of the Downtown Business Association is. If they don't have an official position, then it shouldn't be in the record at all.
Councilman,
I would suggest council members who want to know a DPA position go to a DPA meeting and request that. I mean, we were just asked about the meeting itself, and we heard that members support the scooters. I mean,
that's not what we said.
So that's I think that's exactly what Councilman Lester said.
That's not.
Councilman Lester.
No, I don't. I thought I was clear. I wasn't saying that the association voted. Like I said, they did not. But what was expressed by the members I heard from, and they discussed it, was that they did not want geofencing. That they liked the scooters, and I didn't hear anybody there say they didn't like the scooters. So that's all. No, it was not official, but that's what the discussion was.
Councilman Schwartz.
When you propose legislation, you open it up for public comment, and you accept public comment. You don't go to them and ask their opinion. It's just not the way it works. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying in response to an accusation that I apparently am lazy for not going to a Downtown Business Association meeting is that It's not our job to go to the Downtown Business Association meeting. It's their job, if they have an opposition to the piece of legislation, to come here and tell us.
Councilman Miller.
I just, in closing, for me personally, I hope we can get through this discussion sooner rather than later. I think it's a big waste of resources. So, people who ride scooters for their livelihoods are waiting on a decision. Our public safety is probably waiting on a decision in some capacity on this, and I hope that can move and we do right for people of Jefferson City.
All right. Scooters. Informal calendar. There's nothing currently on. Next meeting there will be. Resolutions, none. Presentations, I don't think we have any. Council staff discussions of presentation topics. New business, none. Approval of the closed minutes. We will need action on that.
Motion.
I think all of us are going to make a motion to approve, so I'll be in the loudest. I'll make a motion to approve.
Your ring,
sir.
Second.
We got a second. We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Actually, we need to do a roll call. Please.
Spicer, Wiseman, Wright,
Aye.
Allers,
Aye.
Deacon,
You're on mute, Council.
I didn't mute. All right, I'm sorry.
thank you. Hensley,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Mealy,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. All right, that brings us down to item 19, closed session. I do believe we have one item, so we will need to formally go into closed. And you have
Pursuant to section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri, the chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss the following: attorney-client privilege, section 610.021, subsection 1.
So,
Is there
second motion. Second.
Second.
And that is a roll call vote as well.
Wiseman, Wright,
Aye.
Allers,
Aye.
Deacon,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Mealy,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer. Motion passes.
Shy, the 8 o'clock mark. Does anybody feel the need to go into a break, or are you ready to plot through? All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
May I ask one question? I'm sorry. So the scooters are not being voted on tonight?
Not tonight. They'll go on the informal calendar, so they will be on that calendar for the meeting in July. It can be pulled off the calendar at that point if the sponsor so